Maddox, I want to go over your 2.03 math module program. I can see you put a lot of effort into this. There's a lot of good work here, but we've got a lot of errors that we've got to clean up too. It doesn't run. I don't know if you figured that out when you hit run program. It doesn't run. It's got errors. And anytime you have errors in your program, you can always like save it and email it to me and say, hey, Mr. Brock, can you help me find these errors? I can't figure it out. I'm happy to do that. So that way you can get something working before you turn it in. But let's take a look at it together. Let me give you some pointers and let's debug some of this. So first off, I looked at your template and this is great. You display the water tank problem. So the description, have the user enter the radius because for the sphere, that's what they need to enter. It's just the radius. Perfect. You're going to use 3.14 for pi. Display the volume, display the surface area. The only other thing I would have added in here is just say, calculate volume and calculate surface area. You didn't put that in your pseudocode that you're actually going to calculate those, but that's very minor. Otherwise, this is good. And I went and looked at this down here. Calculate the volume of water tanks. Companies could use this to find out the volume of the water tanks. You had an apostrophe, you said, and had to fix that. But there's other errors. That's not the only thing. And be sure not to use any improper punctuation. Coding is an entirely different language. You are correct. Coding is an entirely different language. Let's take a look at your program itself. So when I run this, first thing it says is there's a bad input on line 7. So I mean, the first thing we saw is okay, I can't really run it because something's wrong. You've defined your main function. Oh, for this one, back in our lesson, we have to have the from math import asterisk to use those math functions. We had that this for anything that has the power, raising something to a power or taking a square root. We have to import those functions. Python doesn't have those loaded, so we would need that. But after you define main, what is your main function? Well, according to Python, you don't have a main function because anything in your main function would have to be indented. Now the comment doesn't matter, but I'm going to go ahead and indent it just so it is part of it. Everything that's part of your main function should be indented over. And I'm using 4 spaces and being consistent. Okay, and then that is not. So anything that's part of your main function should be indented. So Python knows, okay, so this is the main function. Everything that has these spaces in front of it, that's all the main function. And then at the bottom, you do call the main function by putting this main statement. It says, okay, the main function's finished. Go ahead and run it now. So that fixed the error on line 7. See, now we have an error on line 9. So line 9 says print, Lena wants to paint her spherical water tank, needs to know. 2 problems on that line. One is you didn't put a quote at the beginning. You missed that. And you didn't close the parentheses down here. Oh, and it looks like line 8, you didn't close the parentheses on line. You do have the quotes on both ends. That's good. But we missed a parentheses there. So that probably was the first error. It was trying to find those parentheses and it went on down to the next line looking for it and still couldn't find. But then line 9 was going to have a problem too by not having closed parentheses. So yeah, you got to check on these lines. It's real easy to miss that. Make sure you have the same amount of opening and closing parentheses on each line. All right, let's see what now. Line 14. So we fixed all the problems up here, but we have another error. We have an opening quote. We do not have an ending quote. Okay, let's try now. Line 25. Okay, so we're good. All your calculations are there. Let's see. Oh, it's a quote thing again. We're consistent with the quote. And this is not the way the power thing works. 4/3 times pi times, remember, we saw in the lesson, power, radius, comma, and you want to take it to the 3rd power. So this is the command that we learned in our lesson on how to take the radius to the 3rd power. And the same thing for the 2nd power, comma. Yeah, these asterisks and stuff, that's how ChatGPT writes programs. You can find online. There's some other versions of Python out there that they work with the asterisks. We need to follow what our lesson's teaching because we know it will work in our Python island. So this is how our power functions work. So let's run it now and see if we got any other errors. Oh, we don't. It says enter the radius. Well, let's just make it a 10. Just make it something kind of easy. Welcome to the Lena water tank calculator. She wants to paint her spherical water tank, needs to know the volume to find how much water can hold. Results. Oh, it says volume of the tank, but it doesn't give us the number. And I know we calculated it. You've got it right here. So we need to look at your print statements to see why are we not seeing the volume and surface area. You have an F statement. F statements again. That's how ChatGPT or other places read it. Our version of Python does not use F statements. Don't put F's in our print statement. That doesn't work. Notice that it printed this little quote at the beginning. It shouldn't print the quote if I run it again and say 10. Now that I took those F's out, now it just says volume of the tank. But we didn't tell it to print what you calculated as the volume. So volume of the tank plus, let's actually print what the volume is. Now remember, when we print words and numbers, because volume is a number, we have to use this str, the string command, in front of the number, or else it'll give an error. Let's check, see if this works before we add the surface area. 10. Okay, volume of the tank. We got a number. Now, as we can see, there's no space. So if we just put a space after tank, but before the quote, it will print that space after tank. There we go. Volume of the tank, 4186.6666. Great. So would that be the actual number? Let's see. If we took it times third power, and I put in a 10. So 10 times 10 times 10 to be 1,000. And if we took 1,000 times 3.14, that would be 3,140. And this wants 4/3 of that. So about a third larger than 3 would be 4 something. So this looks to be a correct calculation. A correct calculation. Let's see about adding surface area. Now we calculated surface area. That's great, but we need to put it in our print statement. Plus, oh, here, I'll show you what it does if we don't put that str command I was talking about. I said, okay, for the area of the surface area of the tank plus surface area. Yeah, let's fix our D. Let's go. Drive us crazy here. Surface area of the tank plus surface area. If I just do that and enter 10, oh, type error, cannot concatenate a string and float objects. It says I can't put letters and numbers together on the same print statement. I don't know how to do that. So if we go in and say, okay, just treat this like it's letters as well. So I have to have 2 closing parentheses now because I've added 2 opening parentheses now. We do that. Now it comes back and says, oh, we need another space in there too. But 1256. So is that our correct calculation? Yeah, 4 times pi times radius squared. Great. And our program is 4 times pi times radius squared. So yes, that should be the surface area. So now, after adding that space, radius, the volume, find how much water hold, 4186 and 1256, there are the results. So you have what you needed in there. You had the calculations, you asked for the radius, you printed the description of the word problem, and you had the print lines. Go back up. You had the print lines down here to print the results. You just forgot to add the actual calculations. It was just saying volume of the tank, surface area of the tank, without the actual answers on there. Overall, you got a lot right here. You got the bones is all right of this. We just had to fill in a lot of the gaps. There was a lot of errors. And I think you would have found some of the missing things had you had the errors fixed. Like you would have noticed it didn't tell you the volume and surface area if you had the program running. But you had errors that kind of stopped you from getting to that point, seeing that was, oh, wait a minute, it doesn't tell me what the volume is. So that's why it's helpful to let's work out all the bugs before we turn it in. So you can look at it and make sure, okay, my program does everything I want it to. Let's turn it in. So if you have trouble with those bugs, like I say, I'm happy to help with that. And if it's not class time, if you can't get, so if I'm in class, you can come to class. Say, hey, can you look at my program? I'm having an error in line 8. Yeah, let's look at it. But you can always just send it to me, and I'll go say, oh, I found this error, found this error, found this error, and I'll send it back, and then you can turn it in after you get it 100% that way. But overall, I can see a lot of work in this. There's a lot of really good stuff here. Just the errors just kind of pulled it down to where he's like, I don't know. But I really like it. Good stuff. If you need help on this new one, remember I've added a new AI tool in Google Classroom that helps you write programs now. I'm going to use that the rest of this semester, and hopefully the school will renew it. The school has paid the full subscription on this thing, but we have a new look in the Google Classroom. Do you need help with this program? And I've added a tool there to help on there. Good work, man. We just got to get all these errors figured out. But I can see you put a lot of work. So, all right, man. I'll get this feedback to you. We'll see you in class.